Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of CopaLoadofRacing. We're going to be looking ahead to Newbury and Newcastle tomorrow with the old Hennessy, now called the Ladbrokes Trophy, to look forward to, and the fighting fifth hurdle at Newcastle, which looks a pretty good renewal this year. Now, looking back to last week with Haydock and the Betfair chase, it was a bit of a surprise in some respects with Bristol de May winning as impressively as he did. It obviously proved that Haydock is by far the best track that he acts on, even now on any surface, having won that race by 50 odd lengths last year in deep ground, that this year winning it in decent ground, but better standard of race this year, is fair to say. But there was a lot of talk, obviously, about the standard of the fences at Haydock. They did look pretty stiff. We had quite a few fallers on last Saturday, which some of the trainers were obviously, and some of the jockeys questioned the state of the fences, which we were led to believe the BHA had remained. Well, they were not led to believe. We know that the BHA had recommended prior to the last week's card that they reduced the size of them and made them less stiff. But obviously, it's felt that maybe that recommendation wasn't carried out to the full. It was disappointing, I felt, because Might Bite didn't perform as well. I think Native River is one of the horses that needed that, possibly that run under its belt. As I said last week, the main target for that, for the likes of Might Bite as well, of course, and is winning that Cheltenham Gold Cup again. So all eyes in that respect with regards to those horses will now move to Kempton and of course the King George. But Bristol de May, superb performance under Daryl Jacob and for Nigel Twiston-Davies, and certainly looked in tip-top shape going into that race, and showed that on the track as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of that season maps out for Bristol de May. It may be this is the season for it to perform to its best. We might not have seen the best of him at Cheltenham and other tracks away from Haydock, but he's now won the first of that £1 million bonus, so it's obvious to believe that he has to go on and try and achieve more. Right, looking ahead to tomorrow, and well, looking back also on last week, tipping wise, things, this jump season's been very, very tough start. I have to be honest with you. You start to, when you're a punter like myself, you're obviously, if you're not getting the winners that you're hoping for, you start to look back and where are you going wrong, the methods that you've used previously. Sometimes you can fall into the trap of maybe the methods that you used on the flat and transferring it into the jumps, and some of those methods don't necessarily work in that respect. So you can get yourself in a position where you can either make one. I've always been a punter who likes a bit of value, and that's always going to lead to an issue of, well, because you're not always, if anybody that follows this vlog will know, a lot of the times that I put up a horse, it's not always the favourite. In fact, probably 90% of the horses that I tip aren't favourites. Sometimes what you can do in that respect is you think, right, I'll just go and securely start to look at favourites more and say, right, okay, I might be safer to just tip up the favourite in this race. But that's not my style. I've said always that if I really do believe that the favourite in a race is going to go on and win, I will obviously tip it. But I'm always being someone that enjoys big field handicaps, because I feel that's where I can utilise some of my methods to its best and look for that value. We have one of the big handicaps of the year tomorrow, but I'll come on to that in a minute because I'm a little bit not enthralled by the race as I have been down the years, but we'll look at that when we come to it. But you get your fingers burnt in this game, and you just need to keep plugging away and not continually. You look at assess things, yes, but don't panic about it. I'm not somebody that punts in big money anyway, so I'm not looking at my bank account or anything and sweating at nothing like that. I do it for the fun of it, and that's the way it should be, and that's what this vlog's all about. But it can be frustrating because you love the game, and every Saturday comes around, particularly when I prefer to have a punt. You open up the paper and you look at it and you think, right, what am I going to look at here? Or as for this vlog, I start to look at race cards for the jumps on a Friday. On the flat, I tend to look at it on a Thursday when the decks come out. But we keep persevering. That's the way you should do it. And you know, if you get proved wrong in some respects, then so be it. It happens. Right. Looking to tomorrow's racing, I'm only going to look at 3 races this week. Narrowed it down a little, looking at the 2 biggest races tomorrow. In terms of grade, the big race is at Newcastle in terms of grading. Last week we seen the first of the Triple Crown of the Chase races. This is regarded as the first of the Triple Crown of the hurdle races of the season, and that is the Victor Fighting 5th hurdle, this grade 1 up at Newcastle. And it's you know, there's been a lot of talk about this race, about who was going to come and feature in it. We've got the champion hurdler, Bouvedere. We've got Sam Crow, who was thought of a lot after winning at Cheltenham the festival last year as a novice. It's fair to say not everything's been as smooth since then, but this horse still has a lot of talent, there's no doubt about that. Then you have Somerville Boy for Tom George and Noel Feely, who again won at the festival last year. Speak about that more in a moment. Ian Jardine, Scottish trainer, of course, has got Bedrock in this. And then you have Vision to Flow for Colin Tizard and Blue Rouge for Ben Haslam down there, making up this 6-runner field. Now Bouvedere and JP McManus running under the most famous colours. Barry Geraghty, of course, the retained jockey. This horse is just constantly on this, just bounding along on this winning streak. Cheltenham, Sandown previous to that, when he but got a cold working on me here. Prior to that, won the Christmas hurdle and had won this race last year as well. And you know, as an Aintree hurdle winner as well, so has great form in the book. That Cheltenham performance last time out, when he was odds-on favourite, there was a little bit of heavy breathing, I think, for some punters in that race, but he'd got the business done, he'd done the job, and that's the thing this horse does. He doesn't set the world alight. He's not for some like a Faugheen or anything like that. He's quite methodical in some respects. Doesn't get a heart racing, but as I say, he's just consistently winning. He's a consistently winning horse, and wouldn't we all want one of them? And a consistently winning horse in Grade 1 level. So he's a worthy favourite here, 5-4. Sam Crow comes over here, Gordon Elliott's horse, and you know, has had that run at Down Royal back in early November when he finished second at odds on. Now he's going to come into this race having missed the appointment at Punchestown. So there's a lot to think about, you know, after that performance at Cheltenham. He fell at Punchestown, didn't he, during the Punchestown Festival. But that, you always think back to that performance at the festival and you think, right, this horse looks a real progressive sort that's going to really come into the champion hurdle flame this season, and certainly will be, particularly if he lays down the performance that he showed at Cheltenham last season again tomorrow. The one thing that I'm looking at though, with if I'm looking at the two of them getting beat, I'm looking at another progressive sort, and another one that won one of the novice races at the festival was Somerville Boy. Now that race, the opening race in last year's card, I was so much with Kalashnikov that day, and Somerville Boy had beaten Kalashnikov at Sandown, if you remember, but Kalashnikov was ahead of him in the market for that race at Cheltenham at the festival. But Somerville Boy, who looked beat in that race, but then remarkably recovered and got back up and won the race, as we've seen. And so this is going to be his first run since then, but vibes are that he's going well. I'm going to go with Somerville Boy to take down Bouvier and Samcro. He's around about 4-1 at the moment, so he's obviously, for me as a punter, there's more desire in that price than 5-4 or 2-1 as Samcro is. It may be that this horse, Somerville Boy, it might take more time for it to become a Grade 1 winner, and as you know, not coming from the novice hurdling into this high level, but he does have the talent, without a doubt. When I looked at him, I thought, is he a horse that will definitely go chasing at one stage? Maybe will, but I like the look of him, and I think at 4-1 he has a real chance to feature here and you know, get his nose in front. I think it'll be a really good race. You know, you've got class in there, even beyond those three at the head of the market. You know, then you jump up to 16-1, 33-1, and 150-1. Out of the other three, if there was one that could do something, then Bedrock. It's coming off the back of two good wins over in Ireland. But yeah, there's no doubt those were good victories, but this is a much tougher assignment. But I wouldn't be surprised if Bedrock maybe takes down the flag of one or two of those further in the betting in this race. We've seen last week with horses first time out for the season with the likes of Native River and Might Bite, that not necessarily guaranteed that first time out again that you're going to get that performance, but we'll see. But I fancy Somerville Boy in that one. Right, moving to Newbury. Look at two races there. The 150 is a Ladbrokes handicap hurdle, just over 2.5 miles. Right, it's one of those races where beyond the front two in the market, it kind of is focused on them. So you've got Champ at 3-1 and Speedo Boy at 7-2. You know, Champ, we've not seen him since the victory at Warwick in May. Speedo Boy won recently at Cheltenham, part of that Ian Williams double there, and it was a very good horse in the flat, so it'll be interesting. The ground will be, I assume, more with it. I've not looked at the times today at Newbury, but if it's dead or anything like that, then Speedo Boy might not be up his street with regards to that. Now, beyond those two in the market, I was struggling. I have to say, looking at this race, to get deeper into it, right, is there anything out there that further down the order that jumps out at you? And as I say, I was finding it difficult to find something there that I thought, right, that might run well at a bigger price. You've got Paddle Your Own Canoe for Colin Tizard, and it's been racing, I think, over a shorter trip than what suits it. When it ran at Taunton back earlier in the year, over a more sufficient trip, as similar to what we'll face tomorrow, he performed reasonably well, but that was in a Class 3 handicap, and you would be expecting more with regards to that. Barter's Hill's one of those horses that, again, I've expected more from him, but he has raced in some decent company. Newbury last time out, way back in February, he ran in deep ground over 3 miles, and never seen himself to best effect. Pulled up the race before that, and he's a horse that, you know, had a long way off and then came back for that race at Newbury, and then you're expecting again for him to come into this race that if he's going to be seen to best effect. I don't know, so many question marks with that. Sleep Easy is one of those horses that's been hitting the crossbar, that's for sure, and been placed quite a few times on its recent efforts, and again, it may be one of those that prefers a bit of better ground. So I picked this race and then I start scratching my head, because I think Speedo Boy jumped out at me, because I do think he's the class act, and so I'll plump for Speedo Boy in that one. Right, looking at the 3 o'clock, the Ladbrokes Trophy Chase, this Grade 3 handicap, it's one of the big handicaps of the National Hunt season. I have to say, there's 14 runners. It's not the biggest field for the Hennessy, or what it used to be called, which is disappointing. I would have been even more okay about that if it was a really classy deep field. I don't sense that myself. You know, when you get Thomas Patrick at the head of the market, I'm not going to knock this horse. It's, you know, it's won some good races down the year, over the past year or so at Aintree and over at Newbury. So yeah, and I think it's worth being the favourite. You have Elegant Escape, Colin Tizard. You've got Miss Parfius, and then the horse that I'm looking at is Dingo Dollar for Alan King and Wayne Hutchison. We seen it at Newbury earlier this season, finished 4th of 14 over 3 miles in a handicap chase. That may just have set him up nice here. Prior to that, he'd ended last season really well, winning at Newbury and at Doncaster, and then went to Ayr at the Grand National meeting, and ran really well, finishing 2nd over 3 miles in a handicap chase there. Consistently seems to always be up there and featuring, and I think at a price of around about 15 to 2, he has a squeak here, with question marks about this race maybe not being as deep as it's previously been. I think Dingo Dollar could run well there, and maybe one at a bigger price, Black Corton for Bryony Frost and Paul Nicholls. It's 12 to 1 at the moment. This horse has been running in Grade 1 races, a couple of Grade 2s, but when you look back at his handicap form at the likes of Ascot and Kempton last season, he was winning consistently enough. I suppose there was nowhere really else to go with him in that respect. You know, his handicap was going up and up and up, so going into graded races he didn't disgrace himself. Of course, ran at Wetherby in the Charlie Hall, and was beaten by Definitely Red. Stepping back into handicap company here, going to be carrying 11-12. It's fair to say. Brian doesn't now obviously take off any of that weight, but I think it might feel a bit more comfortable, even though it's going to be carrying more weight, but it's not going to be necessarily a deeper race here. So I think Black Corton could run well at a bigger price out of them. So, you know, Black Corton and Dingo Dollar for me in the Ladbrokes Trophy. Right, that's just about it for me. In regards to Scottish race, we've had some meetings. There was a meeting at Ayr this week, and also Musselburgh back on Monday. Monday they're racing again at Musselburgh this Monday, and the following Monday after that, in fact. Some good jumps action there, and if you can get along to any of those meetings, then do so. I think there's also Kelso's coming up soon with the Borders National, and so that would be one to get yourself along to if you can. Right, as for me, that's it for this week. There'll be no vlog next week. It's my Christmas night out, so I would have done it on a Thursday, but the decks don't really come out obviously then, so I'll probably just put my tips up for Sandown next week and Aintree on Twitter, so follow that then. Right, enjoy your racing tomorrow, folks, and the rest of this week if you're off racing. Enjoy it very much. I'll see you soon. CopaLoadofRacing, folks.